Hey guys, this is the Fat Panda, and week one of battles in the WPF B-League are over, so it's time to drop some week one power rankings. There isn't going to be a heck of a lot of change from week to week for me, but there's a couple bigger ones this week, some teams I think I might have misplaced in my first rankings. Corrected for that, and as we go, things, as teams win a lot or lose a lot, they'll probably start sliding up or down. It's not going to be a straight list of 8 1-0s and then 8 0-1s. I think the highest ranked 0-1 I have is 3, and the lowest ranked 1-0 I have is like 11 or 12 or something. It's still a ranking of how strong I think the team is, and now as I start to see the coaches battle, then it'll start to slide up or down. Because some coaches might be better drafters and they're battlers and vice versa. So not a heck of a lot of change, but we'll just get through this list and see where everyone has kind of landed after 1 week of battling. At number 1, still have the Cherrygrove Charizards. No real surprise. Very strong team. Had a very good victory against the Miami Deinos. He made no real errors. It looked like he completely out-prepped the other player, and it was just a very clean 4-0 victory for him. Jolteon managed to snag, I believe, 3 of those KOs on its own, and it was just a dominating victory. He'll stay the number 1 seed as long as he keeps winning, because that team, I just don't think there is any other team that can really stand up to it over, if matches were played in a series, I think he'd win out of a series of 5 games or something pretty easily every single time. At number 2, up a bit from last week, I have the Michigan Diamond Storm. This is one of the couple teams that I did give a fairly large change to. All these top teams were fairly even, after the draft, and it was really up to the coaches to see where they kind of shook out after that. Of the top teams, this is the only other one that really won, so he got a pretty big boost. Easy win for the Michigan Diamond Storm. Necrozma managed to set up a Rock Polish and then baited the opposing Blastoise into a Dark Pulse, setting up Weakness Policy, and from there it was just a clean Store Power sweep. It was, a wonderful victory to watch. I love Necrozma. I think it's super underrated by other people, whether it sets up like it did this week or supports with rocks and whatnot like it can do other weeks. Very strong team, well deserving at the number 2 spot. I fully expect to watch many more victories out of this team. Number 3 slot, I have the Sacramento Kingler. This is the highest ranked 0-1 team I've got so far. I just think that even with a Tier 4 Mega, which is the Audino, I think this team packs so much power that it's going to just do wonderful things throughout the season. This week looked like a little bit of underplay. He came against a Suicune with Calm Mind. He only had 2 answers to it, and Vaporeon and Magnezone both came, but he also lost both very early in the match, and then the Suicune was able to set up a Calm Mind or 2 Calm Minds and just kind of swept from there. It wasn't a pretty picture, but with how strong his team is, I'm fairly sure he will bounce back in the future. At number 4, I have the Motherland Mawile. Another match where it felt like he might have just under-prepped a little for his opponent. Things were going well, except he brought the Hoopa in, KO'd him on, and then promptly lost it to an Azelf U-turn. It looks like he didn't know Azelf learned U-turn, so that is definitely an under-prep moment. But if he can avoid those in the future, I'm pretty sure that how strong this team is, it'll also win many, many games. There's just so much offensive pressure. Even if you don't prep as well, if you just keep hitting buttons with this team, you're going to sneak out a few victories. So I look forward to watching what they do in the future. Hopefully they don't start a slide here and fall, because with how strong this team is, I'd love to see what it could do throughout the season. At number 5, I have the Philadelphia Pangoros. This is the first team that I'm going to come across as some roster changes. I'll go over those when we get to it. But as far as battling this week, it was a fairly strong victory. The rain, he managed to preserve his Pelipper against an opposing Ninetales Alola, which is certainly a threat to it considering Freeze Dry and Hail. He managed to keep rain up fairly consistently, and although his opponent also managed to preserve their Ninetales fairly well, in the end, just the pure strength of the rain with the Kabutops. I don't think it even dropped a Z move this match, but it certainly has that potential. But between Kabutops and Swampert, and then some cleanup by Tapu Koko, which earned it the MVP slot, very strong team. The Golduck was dropped for Articuno. I think this is a fantastic trade. I don't think Golduck offered anything to the team overall. Articuno also still a somewhat, niche mon. 4 times rock weaknesses are always a little hard to play around with, but how offensive this team is with the Coco Lucha plus the Swampert plus the Kabutops, it's going to be pretty hard for opposing teams to actually set up rocks. And when rocks aren't on the field, Articuno is actually a pretty good force. It can be a little defensive. It can run Scarf. It can just run a whole bunch of fun things. So I really like this change. I think Articuno is leagues better than Golduck. Fantastic trade in my opinion. At number 6, I have the Miami Deinos. It was a match this week that and something you kind of want to forget. I just got completely out-prepped and outplayed by the Cherrygrove Charizards. It's a really, really good team, and when you go against a team that good, you have to bring your best. I'm not sure. He's probably kicking himself for a couple decisions pre-prep. The Miltank walled. It looked like his superior set pretty handily, and he didn't have a heck of a lot of other offense. The Diggersby came in. It got, I think, 1 KO. It might have been able to get more, I believe, but he tried to set up a last-ditch sword stance to win the match, which, you can certainly respect. If it's between maybe a tiny chance for a win or preserving like maybe one more differential, going for the win is obviously the right choice. So I'm sure with how strong this team is, they're going to come out raging next week, and I love to see what they can do from this point out. Number 7, with a little boost in the ranking, are the Wyong Washing Machines. Fantastic match this week, taking out the Motherland Mawile. There was some significantly good prep that I noticed. The Mega Venusaur walled basically the entire team except the Hoopa, but the Hoopa was also one of the first things to fall because he U-turned on it with an Azelf. Now, I don't think it should have fallen as easily as it did, but the fact that it did meant that from that point on, Venusaur was pretty much completely free to wall the rest of the team. It didn't even come down to that, though, because Scarf Darmanitan and Varium Z Rabombi, which actually took out a Mawile, you don't see that much, just managed to clean up from there. It was very good prep and pretty darn good play. Definitely worth a little boost in the rankings for the Washing Machines. Number 8, Gotham Darkrai. A very, very easy win it looked like against his opponent this week. That Jirachi was something that Seattle didn't seem to have prepped for at all. Scarf Jirachi is a very common set, but if you don't have an answer to it, it will run all over you just like it did this week. I believe it even racked up 5 KOs. Like, that is an insane total. Despite the incredible victory, wasn't entirely happy with his team, so he made a couple trades. One of the other coaches ended up dropping their Zapdos for something else, which I'll go over later. And so he swooped in to take it, trading his Raikou and his Tornadus Incarnate for a Rhydon and a Zapdos to make the points work. I'm not terribly happy with this trade, I don't think. I believe that the team is fairly fat as it is. It's got Tangrowth, it's got Alomomola, it's got Umbreon. I don't really know if Rhydon, which is, it hits really hard, but it is also a very just wally, bulky threat. And Zapdos, which is primarily used defensively, although it can kind of run offense. It's got the special attack, it's got the speed, it just doesn't have any setup or anything like Tornadus or Raikou might have. So I feel like he lost a little bit of offense, a little bit of setup, gained some bulk. I'm not terribly happy with it, but he certainly seems very happy with this decision. Hopefully it works out for him. That's kind of why I wasn't really feeling it. He didn't move up too much. I think the win was hampered by the trades. But, Zapdos is very good. Rhydon is very good. I just don't think they fit with the team he already had as well as the Raikou and Tornadus did. Maybe I'm wrong. We'll see as we go from here. Number 9, the team that actually lost to the previous the Gotham Darkrai, is the Seattle Celebi. We've got Sand Team. Didn't quite outwork farm this team this week. He made some fantastic plays during the match. He got a Toxic on a Raikou because he The Raikou thought it was going to switch out, so he just set up a Calm Mind. He got out a Mega Gyarados with his Excadrill in the sand by just going for a couple of X Scissors, but lack of prep overall because he had no real answer for Scarf Jirachi the moment that Excadrill lost the sand and then lost its life, because that Jirachi just ran all over him. It was kind of painful to watch. That's something that he should definitely be looking out for next time they are going to face at the very end of the season. Be interested to see how he preps for the Jirachi then, because, well, I'm like 99% sure that Jirachi is still going to be on the team then. Number 10, Auckland Articuno had a tough match against the Philadelphia Pangoros with their rain team this week. Played incredibly well. There was the Ninetales Alola, which is the team MVP for the week. It managed to scare off the rain a few times, and he managed to preserve it almost until the end of the match when it did no longer matter, because the Pelipper that was on the other side just kept setting up rain. He just had to keep getting rid of it. It was a fairly fun weather war to watch. You don't see weather wars nearly all that much, but in the end it was just a little too much, that the sheer amount of pressure the rain team brought. He managed to break through with the Kabutops, and it was just kind of over from there. Still a very good team. Very well played. I'm very interested to see how he does in the future. Our second actually biggest gainer of standings is the Beverly Hill Bibarel, which are up to number 11 now on the power rankings. They just completely destroyed the Sacramento Kingler. That Suicune, he managed to bait out every counter that there was for it, and then set up and win. It was clean, it was textbook, it was very nice to watch. Certainly much better than I expected out of him after looking through the draft. I didn't think there was a heck of a lot there, but he managed to work it perfectly for that match, and I'm very excited to see what comes next. Number 12, I have AK's team. Very easy match, though I have some questions about it, against the Canine Tiger from the previous week. Turn 1, Slurpuff against a Heatran. He actually had the balls to stay in and belly drum with Slurpuff, which blew my mind, but it worked out because his opponent, evidently just wasn't feeling the fact that belly drum Slurpuff with Unburden was a threat, so he just kind of let it do it. I feel like it's one of those things where if someone's got a Slurpuff on the field and you're not 100% sure what it is, you have to hit the damn thing, because if it belly drums and you don't have an exact answer like he did, it's just brutal. It got 5 KOs. It would have gotten the clean 6-0 sweep, but it missed the last player off, which actually I think wasn't even supposed to be a player off. It should have been a return, because I believe the last mon was a Sceptile. So very close to a 6-0 sweep. The balls to stay in and belly drum on a Heatran of all things, which, as far as things you want to see on the other side of Slurpuff, is probably, the very bottom of the list. But it was a pretty good victory to watch. I love Slurpuff. I love watching Slurpuff sweep. I don't think I would ever have the cojones to do what he did. I don't really want to call it a good play, because I don't think it was, but it worked out, and that's all that really matters in the standings, doesn't it? Did make a trade, though. Maybe he heard that I was super disappointed in how many dragons and fairies and whatnot he had. He ended up dropping his Druddigon for a Chandelure, gained some points as well. I think this is a fantastic trade. Druddigon basically offered absolutely nothing to his team that wasn't already covered. At best, he offered a, Glare user, but, Glare isn't so much better than Thunder Wave outside of bypassing immunities or whatnot, and, you already had, Ferrothorn, for example, and stuff. So, I don't think Druddigon offered anything. Chandelure, however, he didn't have a Ghost type, didn't have a Fire type, really could use some of that mid-range power. He's got a fantastic choice user, and I think Chandelure is going to do a ton more work than you would ever see out of that Druddigon. So I think that was a fantastic trade and got him a little bit of a bump in the standings. Number 13, I have the Puget Sound Swampert. They are the last team, the lowest team that has a 1-0 record at the moment. They benefited from a decent amount of luck in the match, but when it counted, he capitalized on it. He managed to get a setup with his circuitry, and from that point on, it was over. The circuitry managed to just take the rest of the match. But, so when you have, and it's one of those things where I really like is when you have an opponent that, something is frozen or whatnot, you can, if you can just capitalize on it and just, take over, you have to do it. And that's what he did. That got him the victory. A little bit of luck, but you have to be able to capitalize on that luck as well, which he did. So excellent on his part. Number 14, the team that got lucked out, as you would say, are the Tacoma Tyranitars. He had a very clear victory as far as I could tell with his Clefable, Calm Mind. It was out healing an Azumarill that was using Playera repeatedly. I think he swapped it out when it had 3 or 4 Moonlights, I think, or Soft Boils, whichever, it doesn't matter, it's the same move. He had 3-4 heals left, and I think that was incredibly wasteful because at that point, Clefable was at like 36% or something, fairly low. It wasn't going to be swapping in or setting up on anything ever again. It was slower than the rest of the field, I believe, with the exception of the Azumarill that was already in. He had a boost up, and it was using Play Rough. I don't think there's any scenario where you should swap it out at that point. You should be praying for the... Oh, no, he didn't swap it out. He ended up just saying, screw it, and he KO'd the Azumarill and then promptly died and then I think he swapped out against the Zergatry because he was low. He should have been playing, or the Play Rough miss. He had at least 3 more turns where he could have prayed for a Play Rough miss. If he'd gotten it, he could have KO'd the Azumarill with Moonblast, and then promptly he could have taken on the Zergatry as well, or the Greninja, which I believe were the 2 mons that were left. Now, it was after that, he was still in a good position, and then he got frozen on his Kecleon by an Ice Beam. That was definitely the killing blow, because at that point Zergatry just came in, set up a Tail Glow, and won. So he definitely got lucked at the end, but I think the decisions prior to that kind of led into it, so I wasn't terribly happy to see that Clef kind of get wasted there. Number 15, I have the K9 Tiger. They got completely blown up by the Slurpuff, as I mentioned earlier. When you lead a Heatran against a Slurpuff, you really just please hit the damn thing. He absolutely needed to, and it looks like he didn't even prep for the Slurpuff at all. Scarf Crobat would have outspeeded. Victory Bell, I believe, because he set up the Sun turn 1 instead of attacking with Heatran. I'm pretty sure Victory Bell should have been able to outspeed with Chlorophyll, but it was slower, which means it was a very weird, slow Victory Bell set, I believe. So, overall, complete and utter lack of preparation, and even with the options he had, it should have been more of a match than it was. It was just incredibly bad play as well. Hopefully he can bounce back from this and kind of shore up his prep and shore up his battling as the season goes on. At number 16, I have the Patchum Patchum. This is the team that got baited into the Necrozma sweep with the Dark Pulse from the Mega Blastoise. It was, if you're a newer player, it's not terribly obvious, but the moment, the Necrozma comes in on something like a Blastoise, that's prime real estate for a Necrozma setup, because it's it's kind of not stab, because obviously Dark Pulse from Mega gets Mega Launcher, but it's not something that's going to blow through Necrozma, and it gave him the boost, and he won from that. After the battle, he did make a trade, traded Zapdos for Zeraora. Normally, this wouldn't be seen as a great trade because, Zapdos has got more utility. It's just got a higher ceiling, I think, than Zeraora. But I think this is actually a really good trade for him. It's something that actually offers him some speed, some real speed. Zapdos base 100. Base 100 hasn't been fast in like 10 years. So, giving him some real speed. He's got power. It's got setup with bulk up. I think it'll offer a heck of a lot more than the Zapdos did before. So I'm thinking hopefully with the Zeraora, with some more prep, he can take some wins in the next couple weeks and see if he can start rising on those power rankings at all. So those are 1 to 16. You can see here, evidently I didn't change the header, but I'm not going to care about it at this point because I'm through the whole damn thing. So these are the week 1 rankings, not the preseason rankings. But we have 1 to 16. On the right, I also have how much they gained or lost. You see there are a couple teams that went up by 4, one team that went down by 4, then a bunch of 1s and 2s as things kind of settle around. I'm pretty happy with how these are. I'm actually super happy. I don't think that I was terribly off week 1 or the preseason into week 1. I'm very curious to see where it stands once again after all 12 weeks of battling. But for now, I'm actually pretty happy. I can't wait to watch your guys' battles for week 2, and we can see where everyone shakes out after that. That's everything I've got. This is the Fat Panda signing off for this video.